Hi, this is Daniel Alpine, animation historian, and welcome to a new episode of Animation Look Back. After Walt Disney had already earned wide success from his first animated feature film, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, in 1937, the natural question from audiences would be, what's next? It was a conscious decision from Walt to not produce a sequel to Snow White because he was one that refused to rest on his laurels. Instead, he would present to his audience a brand new story that would feature all that couldn't be done in Snow White, but also what he and his staff had learned while making it. And that would be Walt Disney's second animated feature masterwork, Pinocchio. The story, The Adventures of Pinocchio, was first written in 1881. The author was an Italian journalist and author named Carlo Collodi. Similar to the book Oliver Twist, Pinocchio first started as a serial for a children's periodical, and then it was published as a book in 1883. The book is an episodic story about the adventures of a living wooden puppet that naively ventures out into the world and learns certain lessons, which in turn teach the child reader the importance of study and work and to be good. The first movie adaptation of the book was a live action silent film from 1911, which was one of the very first films produced in Italy. For years, it was thought to be lost until a print was found in 1994. During production of Snow White, one of the studio's top animators, Norm Ferguson, had brought to Walt's attention the book. What Walt saw in the book was the opportunity to produce a new feature film that would present all that was possible in the art of animation at that time. However, adapting this book into a feature film would prove to be a real challenge from the start. While Snow White was based on a short fairy tale that can be tinkered with and expanded upon into a suitable film narrative, Pinocchio was based on a book that was a more fixed story. As animator Ward Kimball remembered, the staff was a little too overconfident after Snow White and thought it would be a breeze to produce another feature film. But after 6 months of developing the film, Walt took a look at the work and he was displeased with what he saw. The issue Walt had was that the Pinocchio character in the Collodi story was a brash and unruly troublemaker. After Walt viewed the first animation tests of Pinocchio in his early design, he knew that Pinocchio was not sympathetic and he put the project on pause. After two unsuccessful attempts to rework the film from animators Fred Moore and Frank Thomas, the studio's most skilled artist, Milt Kahl, took on the task of retooling the character of Pinocchio. Milt remembered that he was very critical of the early designs because he thought that it focused too much on the fact that the character was a wooden puppet. What he did was draw a new Pinocchio that looked more as a normal child with a few needed puppet aspects. After Milt finished an animation test of the new character design, Walt was pleased and production was allowed to continue in September of 1938. It was also decided then to change the character's personality to fit the design Milt drew. Instead of being the unruly rascal from the book, the Disney artists made Pinocchio into an innocent and naive child that throughout the story learns to develop a conscience. It was also around this time the staff decided to retool the character of the talking cricket. In the book, the cricket first appears in chapter 4, but Pinocchio smashes him with a mallet because he was nagging morals. The cricket returns in chapter 13 as a ghost, and in the end is fully resurrected. But Walt saw other possibilities for this moralizing character. Since Walt thought that there wasn't enough friendship in the story, and that the title character was too naive to solely carry the film, he thought that perhaps the cricket, now called Jiminy Cricket, could be the conscience and sidekick to Pinocchio that is there to help him make the right decisions. An added plus, which a lot of people don't understand now, is that the character Jiminy Cricket does have an arc where he learns to accept responsibility because it was unexpected when he took on the role of Pinocchio's conscience. As animator Ollie Johnston said, Jiminy would become the heart of the film and he would be the thing that held it together. For the casting of the characters, Walt thought that this should include actors that were more experienced and that were familiar to the audience at that time. The most well known actor of the film was the voice of Jiminy Cricket, Cliff Edwards. Edwards started his career in 1918 in vaudeville, and soon he would become a popular actor and singer. In 1929, he would star in one of the very first sound films, and in 1933, Edwards was featured in a total of 33 feature films for MGM. To voice the lead character Pinocchio, experienced child actor Richard Jones was brought in. Before this, Jones was featured in two movies that starred Jimmy Stewart, including Frank Capra's Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Another well known character actor was the voice of Honest John the Fox, Walter Catlett. Catlett was a Shakespearean actor that also starred in a few classic films, including Frank Capra's Mr. Deeds Goes to Town. While the rest of the cast, which included Christian Rubb, Evelyn Venable, and Charles Judell, weren't all superstars as Cliff Edwards, still, these were familiar character actors that audiences recognized at that time, and also each one brought their own caliber of talent to their respected roles. An innovation that the film started was the use of small models called maquettes, which is still used in animation production. The inventor of this process was classic Disney artist and writer Joe Grant. What this process is that after the character designs are finalized, it would be passed on to a sculptor that would construct a model of the character, and then it would be passed on to the animators. The importance of these miniature models is to help the animators see how their character is to be drawn in different angles. This film would become bigger and more elaborate than Snow White in areas such as the special effects, the new techniques, the musical score, and the art direction from artist Gustav Tangren. This was all because what Walt Disney tried to achieve with this project was perfection. But similar to what he and the staff had learned while producing Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Walt knew that it was the excellent story and rich characters that would help the film match the technical and artistic perfection. After all that, Walt Disney's second animated feature film, Pinocchio, premiered in New York City on February 7th, 1940, to excellent reviews. The movie was more expensive than Snow White, and unfortunately, it was not a box office success because 5 months before the film's release is when World War II started in Europe. Because of this, the picture couldn't really be released overseas, in particular Europe. Joe Grant said that Walt was depressed because of the film's initial box office struggles. However, during the award season, Pinocchio would win the Oscars for Best Original Score and Best Song When You Wish Upon a Star, and this would become the first time that an animated feature film won a competitive Oscar. After World War II ended, Pinocchio would soon turn a profit through its theatrical re releases and later video sales. Today, Pinocchio is recognized as the pinnacle of Disney because of the level of perfection that was put into it in terms of the story, the characters, the animation, and the technical merits that was achieved solely through the magic of Disney. The movie's opening song, When You Wish Upon a Star, would also become the official anthem of all of Disney. In 1994, Pinocchio was inducted into the U.S. Library of Congress National Film Registry. In the summer of 2023, I actually had the privilege of visiting the Disney 100 exhibit at the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia, and there I saw a lot of memorabilia from different Disney movies, and that includes Pinocchio. There I saw one of the working puppet models that was used during the film's production, and I saw a piece of the costume the live action model for Pinocchio wore, and I saw one of Gustav Tangren's artwork. So, here's to Walt Disney's once in a lifetime masterpiece that, after 85 years, still continues to prove the limitless potential in a work of art. Well, that's all for now, and I'll be seeing ya.